but replied that this did not explain everything. Chu Xingchen became so involved in discussing with the system of the secret organization that was trying to kill him that he ended up in the system's space, where it was easier to communicate. In its space, the system could immediately demonstrate its ideas to the guy and show the arrays of information that it possessed. Whereas in the real world, they communicated through messages. Meanwhile, interesting events were happening in the city. They began, as always, with the search for the lost Chu Xingchen, but then someone came and reported that the guy was already there. Lisa said that she was glad that Chu had been found. She added that he is already a big boy and there is no need to announce searches for him twice a day. The fox was tired of digging through the trash for half a day. One man offered to bring some snacks before they returned from searching for the missing guy. Everyone was quite exhausted and hungry, so they happily accepted this offer. In anticipation of the delicious food, the fox even began to gesticulate in joy. True, she did not see that behind her back. Tenacious, terrible hands were reaching out to her from the darkness. The living house of the CU City Academy team was very lively as always. Don't let the girls eat, but let them chat. Moreover, there really was something to talk about. Their unfortunate friend still remained in the body of the scary bearded old man. She had already cried her eyes out. The girl's beard could have been wrung out. It was so wet from bitter tears. The girls strongly sympathized with their now bearded friend. Her sister looked at her with great sympathy. But none of the girls knew how to help their unfortunate friend. Tears streamed down the face of the bearded girl. She asked for the 1,000th time when she would have the opportunity to return to her own sweet and beautiful body. The girls told their friend that since the secret world was closed ahead of schedule, the spell did not reset her physical status. But the girls contacted high-level craftsmen to solve the problem. Still crying, the bearded girl asked her sister for permission to hug her. But the sister responded with a decisive refusal. She said she was too disgusted to hug the old man. The other part of the girls from Shiyu's team was more worried about the fact that they placed so low in the qualifying tournament. This was a real shame for their elite academy. It was doubly embarrassing because the competition was held in their hometown. It was unacceptable to be in second to last place. And in 2 weeks, the second stage of the competition will begin. The girl was torn from her bitter thoughts by Kong Funk, who reported that guests had visited their academy. These were guys from another academy, and apparently they needed help. The girls were very surprised by the guests. Although they were extraordinarily good-looking, they did not often receive guests. Since they were an all-girls academy, it would be rude for them to accept boys all the time. But this time the guys from the Wujin school came to them, and they came together with their mentor. It was immediately clear that they came not just to look at the girls, but for business. It turned out that Wu Jian's fox was lost. The guys had already searched half the city, but could not find any traces of the loss anywhere. With each passing hour, their anxiety increased and reached its peak. Even though the fox was from an ancient race, it was a fairly defenseless creature. It was especially difficult for her in a big human city, where there was a lot of bad things. Therefore, the Wujin school feared that the fox could be kidnapped and then sold on the slave market. She could also have been locked up somewhere, starved and abused. In any case, it was necessary to take decisive steps to find the missing team member. Since the girls from Shiyu's team were local, it was a sensible decision to contact them. The girls had many connections in the city. They used word of mouth to find the missing fox. With its help, the message about the fox was transmitted from person to person, personally. The girls also used a network of agents who posted notices about the missing fox throughout the city. It was also an effective way to find a missing person, or fox. Among other things, there was even an announcement about the lost fox on large boards in the city center. After so much action, information about the fox was bound to emerge. City residents were sympathetic to the problem of the Wujin school team. The information quickly spread throughout the city, and most residents wanted to help the guys find the fox. Some people said that children's disappearances had become more frequent, and they feared for their own children. The old people said that in their times it was safer. There was no such disgrace. Despite all the announcements, the guys themselves also wandered around the city, trying to find traces of the missing fox. But while all efforts were in vain, the fox seemed to fall through the ground. Soon, demonstrations began to take place in the city to search for the missing fox. Crowds of sympathizers gathered at them, who loved to speak in squares and talk about their kindness. Meanwhile, in the guest house of the Wujin school, a sad Chu Xingqian was sitting and wondering how he could find the harmful fox, which, even having disappeared, managed to create so much trouble. But Chu Xingqian was approached by Hu Lu, who said that he remembered something about the fox. It turned out that they and the fox were looking for Chu, and then they were attacked on the corner and the fox disappeared. Hu Lu added that his eyes became red when he was hit on the head. Then his memory blacked out. Now the guy remembered everything about himself and about the missing fox. It turned out that the stick was firmly stuck in the dent on Hulu's skull. This dent was left by the claws of a huge ant from a distant island. This affected Hu's mental abilities. Hulu also reported that the kidnappers acted extremely professionally, which could indicate a long-standing plan to kidnap the fox. This made Chu think hard. The princess suggested that they could prepare to kidnap the fox and then sell it. Hao Geng added that these days the price of foxes is very high because there are very few of them. Hao Geng added that the body of foxes is excellent for alchemical furnaces. She said foxes have now become very scarce and are sold on the black market for at least $1 million. Hao Geng also reported that foxes were in great demand among monks and nobles. Her Majesty asked Hao how she knew so much about foxes on the black market. Hao just bit her lip. Chu Xingqian was very afraid for the life and health of the fox. He could not allow this sweet, although sometimes unbearable girl to be used to fuel an alchemical furnace. Her Highness was already starting to get angry and began to shake Hao Geng, asking what she knew about the missing fox. But this time, the fit of rage did not happen to the princess, but to Chu Xingqian. Therefore, the girls had to stop sorting things out and take care of Chu Xingqian, who looked like a demon from hell. Chu shouted that he would destroy those bastards who stole his fox. At this time, a girl from Shiyu appeared at the door and said that they were able to find traces of the fox through their channels. He was very surprised at the perverted game being played in Wujin. Meanwhile, Chu Xingqian heard the news about the fox and stopped struggling. But just in case, the princess, Hao Geng, and Hulu held him a little longer so that he finally came to his senses. Soon, representatives of the Wujin school team arrived at the compact residence of the Shiyu team. The apartments at this elite academy were luxurious and spacious. Children from the Wujin team and the Shiyu team gathered in the large hall. The guys knew each other very well after going through such a difficult qualifying tournament with wandering ghosts. The girls reported that the fox was kidnapped for a ghost market. This was the first time Chu Xingqian, the princess and the others, had heard of such a market, so they asked for more information about it. The girls from Shiyu said that the ghost market was formed at the junction of Jialan, Shinto, and the Western Kingdoms. This market was the largest concentration of illegal trade. Kong Feng reported that her informants reported that a new fox had appeared in the ghost market, which was described as exactly like the fox from the Wujin school. The princess was indignant. Her Majesty growled that she would tell her brother to send troops there and destroy the entire market there to hell. But Kong Feng said that such actions could lead to war on the border. Kong Feng added that the market is such a dangerous place that many countries turn a blind eye to it. No one is able to clear it of illegal trade and various scammers, Chu Xingqian said, which means then the Wujin school can only rely on itself. Kong Feng added that since the fox was kidnapped in their city of Shiyu, then they are obliged to help find the fox. Kong Feng said that she, as a local, would provide Chu's team with escorts to such a hot place. Chu gratefully shook the girl's hand, and the princess could barely contain her anger. Chu Xingqian said that he would go straight to the market and get even with the fox kidnappers. But Kong Feng stopped the hot guy. She noted that it is not so easy to get into this market. Kong Feng added that in order to get into the ghost market, you need a lot of money. Chu Xingqian did not expect that financial problems would arise on their way to save the fox. Kong Feng said that one person needs 100,000 to pay for the entrance ticket to the ghost market. The guys whistled sadly and looked at each other. Then they decided to calculate their finances in order to send at least one Chu Xingqian to the market. But they only had change in their pockets. They didn't even have enough for one ticket to the market. Therefore, the princess decided to take advantage of her position and called the hated Kong to her. Her Majesty didn't know why she didn't like this girl, but it didn't matter. The princess told Kong Feng that this was a matter of national importance and she needed the girl's jewelry. Kong began to take off her earrings, and Her Majesty added that she would make up for everything. But then Xingqian surprised both girls. He told them that he had come up with a great way to get into the market for free. And they don't even have to go there. They will be taken there for free. It was a clear, quiet night. There were not many travelers on the road, but one cart attracted attention. At night, the creaking of poorly oiled wheels of a decrepit cart could be heard quite far. The two people accompanying the cart were quite lost in their hands. On the road, they came across a good catch that could be sold profitably at the market. The men were very happy about their luck. Of course, the guys were dirty and crazy, but some of them were very beautiful, so you could get good money for them. The drivers wanted to arrive at the place as soon as possible. When Chu Jingchen said that he had come up with a way to bring them to the market for free, the princess imagined a trip in a comfortable carriage. But in reality, I had to shake in a stinking cart. At the same time, the thin fingers of a man of high status squeezed the letter with irritation. Apparently, the contents of the letter were not particularly liked by the person who read it carefully. Songlai wrote that Jin's soul was struck by a ghost, so the girl's memory was lost and the system was destroyed. The messengers now understood why the girl did not contact them. It was also clear from the letter that Hu Songlai had so far avoided complete exposure. True, the guy wrote that he never managed to learn anything useful from Chu Xingqian's past. The envoys were already starting to tire of Chu Xingqian's amazing invulnerability. They supplied Jin with advanced artifacts so that she would destroy the guy, but she herself was almost dead. In addition, the envoys were interested in the question of where the systems of their people had gone. After all, even if a person dies, his system must remain. But for some reason, this did not happen. One of the envoys suggested that it was Chu who had somehow managed to destroy the systems they had implanted in their people. If this is true, then Chu was no ordinary chosen one. If things were like this, then the envoys needed to get Chu Xingqian into their hands as quickly as possible. Fortunately, informants reported in a timely manner that Chu was going to the market. One of the envoys uttered a mysterious phrase, which meant that they were not the only ones fighting Chu Xingqian. It turned out that their victim had acquired more enemies. Then the messenger developed his idea that the fox was kidnapped for a reason. Someone needed to lure Xingqian out of the city and send him to the market. True, the logic of these actions is not yet clear. Lisa, meanwhile, was in a very depressed state. She was very afraid of captivity. She knew what was done to foxes in captivity. Now she was next to other captive children. The Phantom Market was one of the most troubled areas in the country. The market itself consisted of a large number of caves, both natural and artificial. All these caves were ornately intertwined with each other. Even an experienced and knowledgeable person could get lost in this market. The landscape of the ghost market was quite complex and treacherous. This market has been notorious for a long time. Therefore, he attracted all kinds of swindlers, criminals, thieves, and villains. For them, it was as if it was smeared with honey. You could buy anything at the ghost market for money. So rich perverts and sadists also did not lose the opportunity to visit this place. There were slaves for every taste here. One of the buyers was just checking out a cute girl. She was quite pretty, but for some reason she didn't react to the buyer. She wasn't even afraid of him. It was strange. The buyer looked into the girl's dull eyes and asked the seller if he had drugged her with something. The seller began to assure that she was just a very submissive and obedient girl who agreed to everything. The buyer got angry and said that he would not have any fun interacting with zombies. Soon the rich man turned away and was about to leave. The seller was discouraged. Such a sweet girl, but they refused to buy her. The seller became furious and began to take out his anger on the young girl, who was innocent of anything and did not understand what was happening. Another seller thought that this was not an experienced seller at all. He drugged the girl to make her submissive. But it is almost impossible to find a buyer for such damaged goods. Another seller called a rich buyer to him. He said it was now his turn to show off his wares. Moreover, he had an excellent intake of very young guys. The cunning seller began to praise the product. He suggested looking at them from all sides. The seller showed the buyer how young and healthy they were, and how sweetly they smiled. But an unexpected sharp blow wiped the obsequious smile from the cunning face of the seller from the ghost market. This was a big problem, and the rich buyer immediately walked away. The unlucky merchant looked in surprise at the one who hit him. From the blow, he flew back and hit his tailbone painfully on the ground. Now it was difficult for him to get to his feet. Meanwhile, the guys calmly removed the bars and got out of the cart. Chu Xingchen stretched his hands. One blow was not enough for him. The guy wanted to swing his fists in a good fight. The seller tried to say something. He was outraged that his best product was behaving in such a disgraceful manner. But Chu Xingchen kissed the merchant's face once again. This time harder. It looked like Xingchen had broken the salesman's nose, but he didn't really care. Chu added that the seller can only speak when asked. You shouldn't open your mouth over trifles. Xingchen leaned towards the seller, who was now acting more reasonable. Chu explained that they were looking for a fox that had been lost not long ago. He asked the merchant if he had heard of the fox. The frightened merchant babbled that he knew about the fox, because foxes are a rare commodity. He added that one beautiful fox was recently sold at the market. She was bought by a jade watch house. The guys didn't understand what it was. A jade watch house. Then the merchant said that this was one of the most prestigious taverns in the ghost market from the Western Island. Chu Xingchen, as a precaution, once again hit the merchant and morally said that stealing other people's children and then selling them in the ghost market is a very bad, undignified activity. The guys gathered in a group to consult on what to do next. They were very upset that the fox found himself without the support of friends in such a bad and scary place. The guys understood that without a lot of money, no one would let them into an elite tavern. But there was no time to wait. The fox needed to be rescued. The friends went through different options for how to get into the tavern. But then the princess turned to Chu Xingchen. She stated that she had some ideas on this issue. Soon Her Majesty told the others about her cunning plan. It was quite late in the evening. But time in such a seedy place as the ghost market did not matter. Here, at any time of the day, you could get everything for good money. The Jade Tower Tavern was as crowded as always. Some visitors came. The thirst for drink and pleasure was written on their faces. Others left, drunk and robbed. Girls from the upper floors shouted to random passers-by to come up to them to have fun together. Some were simply looking around, looking for someone in the crowd. The unsuccessful merchant approached the doors of the Jade Tower. The woman from the tavern asked what happened to his face. The seller replied that there was nothing wrong with it. It just happened to fall. The merchant said that he had brought excellent goods and at a fairly reasonable price. The woman muttered that she needed to look at the product first because she didn't want any freaks. The merchant said that he would not offer freaks to such a prestigious establishment. He added that he had only the highest quality goods, and with these words, he pulled back the canopy of the cart. Inside were two very cute little girls. One is a blue-eyed brunette, and the other with brown eyes and hair of a burning red color. The product was really good. True, the system had to work its magic for quite a long time to turn these cocky guys into nice girls. But there was an important mission to complete, and the system did a great job. The result of the system turned out to be very nice. No one would recognize these cute girls as the two formidable lovers of fighting who used to be called Chu Xingchen and Shizuo Wu. An hour before the guys dressed as girls entered the Jade Tower, an unusual conversation took place in a dark alley nearby. This time the children themselves suggested that they be sold. The merchant was greatly surprised by this strange desire of the children, who had only recently escaped from his tenacious and greedy hands, and were now again about to voluntarily fall into slavery. The merchant could not refuse the guys. Moreover, he hoped to earn extra money from this. But he told the guys that only beautiful girls are accepted into the Jade Tower. The guys were upset at first. They already thought that they would have to invent a new way to get inside the elite tavern. But at this time, Chu Xingchen remembered something. Chu Xingchen cheerfully turned to his friend and said that he knew one failed fashion designer who would instantly turn them into first-class seductive beauties. Soon, thanks to a plan that matured in a dark, gloomy alley, the guys were able to get into the Jade Tower and do the thing for which they had come to the market, searching for the fox. The princess boasted to the girls from CU Academy about how smart they were and what a cunning plan they came up with. The girls from the elite academy just silently blinked their eyes in amazement. Her Majesty added that their boys were sold to the Jade Tower for 5,000 taels. After this, the guys hastened to rob the loser merchant in order to get some money. The guys from Woojin School also showed the girls from CU photos of the boys when they were already dressed as girls. It turned out that Chu Xingqian and Shuzuo Wu turned into two cute friends. The girls from CU Academy were impressed by such antics. The poet Kong Feng suggested that they go to the Jade Tower Tavern and see the guys there in a new beautiful image. It should be noted that the Jade Tower is very large. The tavern is divided into 5 levels. Products in the tower are judged by beauty, talent, and race. The more valuable the product, the better it is treated. The woman who bought the new product asked what their name was. It was clear that the woman was powerful and was accustomed to commanding everyone. Therefore, the guys immediately reported the names of Shu Chu and Zhu Wu. The woman began to look at them. She walked around the guys on all sides, looked at their teeth as if choosing horses. The woman even pulled their hair to check if it was real. Then, she turned to Zhu Wu and said that he was quite handsome, and perhaps he would have many clients. True, the woman noted that Zhu Wu's voice was rude and disgusting. The woman told her subordinates to assign Zhu Wu to the orange level, where wealthy clients usually rest. Chu Xingqian did not want to part with another in such a hot place. Chu Xingqian asked the woman whether he should also go to the orange level. The woman did not answer. She just looked askance at her acquisition and clicked her tongue. Chu Xingqian was assigned to the green penultimate level and was told that there were not enough cleaners there. He thought that Her Highness had come up with a lousy plan. She should come here to wash the floors herself. Finally, Chu Xingqian freaked out and said that he was not hired to wash the floors here. The guy shouted that with characteristics like his, he should manage everything here and not wash the floors. Then, the system appeared and informed Chu Xingqian that Shuzuo Wu was in much better shape than him. To this, Chu replied that beauty is a relative concept and that he too is as beautiful as a girl in his own way. When Chu got tired of washing the floors, he looked down. According to his calculations, the fox should have been at the red level. It was necessary to quietly get there, free the fox, and let it run. Chu Xingqian carefully looked around. He felt it necessary to make sure that no one was following him. Apparently, it was quiet on his floor. Clients didn't come here. Chu Xingqian thought that customers were losing a lot by not going to this floor. All the floors on the green floor were sparkling clean. So Chu stopped thinking about clients and started thinking about the fox. The guy tried to use the sound transmission technique, but it didn't work. It was strange. Therefore, Chu decided to use one of his skills, but to no avail. Chu Xingqian complained to the system about his failures. She told him that this place was somehow strange. Apparently, there was a magnetic field in the tower that suppressed spiritual power. Chu Xingqian was afraid for his friend. After all, if spiritual forces do not work in the tower, then Shuzuo Wu will not be able to defend himself, and he will then have to sell his body at the request of the old woman. Frightened Chu hid in a corner and tried to think of a way to rescue his comrade. But as luck would have it, nothing came to mind. Chu just realized that beauty only brings problems. Chu Xingqian saw terrible pictures of what was happening within the walls of the Jade Tower. Just the thought of such things made the hair on Chu's head stand on end. In this terrible place, the girls were completely defenseless. Nobody asked their opinions and desires, but anyone here could offend them. It was a truly scary place. Beatings and assault were considered commonplace in the Jade Tower. One could imagine what the girls who had been working in such a disadvantaged place for many years would experience. Soon, one of the old acquaintances appeared in the tavern. This guy took part in competitions. Now the guy with green hair was yelling that he needed a beautiful girl. The young man was very impatient. He shouted that he had to wait for his own money. But he didn't have to yell for long. They heard him, heard his request, and the crunch of his money. Already drunk, Ju slammed his mug on the table and growled that he was sick of the fucking Chu Xingqian and his fucking Woojin school. Alcohol only made the guy even more angry. The green-haired guy kept growling that stupid Shuzuo Wu had slapped him in the face in front of so many people. The understanding girl tried to calm the dissatisfied Jew. She added that losing is not scary. After all, there is always a second chance to deal with the enemy. Suddenly, Ju became quiet, and the girl thought that she managed to calm him down. Then, the guy with green hair turned his face distorted with hatred towards the girl, and quietly whispered who could tell her such nonsense that he supposedly lost to the Woojin school. Then Ju threw up his hands and started yelling at the girl that she was a stupid fool and didn't know anything. So she shouldn't teach him how to lose. The offended guy went wild. A completely enraged guy with green hair threw the girl on the floor and began to trample her under his feet and yell that it was none of her business to come to him with advice. She must know her place. Ju yelled that he would never forgive the girl for letting him down when she said he lost. He growled that he had never lost in his life, and he had no intention of losing in the future. At this time, the doors opened and Chu Xingchen, who was still in his female form, was thrown into the room. Besides him, another fragile, unhappy girl flew into the room. Hearing that there was someone else in the room, Chu Xingchen turned around cautiously. He was very surprised when he saw that there was a guy with green hair in the room. Meanwhile, Ju looked closely at the confused Chu Xingchen. It even seemed to him that the guy with green hair saw right through him and realized who he really was. Finally, the guy took Chu Xingchen's pretty face in his hand and muttered that such a terrible beauty was just for his taste. Chu Xingchen was speechless for a while, but Ju shouted that he liked shy girls and pulled Xingchen along with him. Chu Xingchen tried to prove that he was a cleaning lady and that he did not sell his valuable body to clients. But the blue-haired guy didn't pay attention to Chu Xingchen's words. He threw him forcefully onto the bed. Chu Xingchen fell painfully and almost burst into tears. But Ju did not back down. He said that the fact that the girl resisted was even better. This will give him more pleasure. The guy hovered over Chu Xingchen and pinned him to the bed. Then the guy with green hair cooed that he really liked his flat body. He told Chu Xingchen that he had been looking for a beauty with a flat body for a long time and could not find one. Chu Xingchen saw that the situation was critical. He could not use his spiritual power to defend or attack at all. So the guy called the system, praying that at least this time it would deign to come. The system really appeared. Moreover, she came at the right moment because the guy with green hair was about to kiss Chu Xingchen, and he almost vomited in his face. The system told Chu Xingchen that he did not need to thank it for its help. The system also noticed that similar situations happened to Chu Xingchen for some reason suspiciously often. Therefore, Chu Xingchen asked the system how it managed to neutralize the loving guy. The system reported that it used an illusory artifact to do this. The system boasted that it first wanted to use the past and future, but without the blessing of the heavenly path, the effect was weak. Therefore, she used an illusory artifact. Chu Xingchen was very surprised that Ju could use his spiritual power while he himself could not. The system assumed that Ju was a guest here, and maybe he had something with him. Chu Xingchen began to search the guy to find the thing that allowed him to use spiritual power in the Jade Tower Tavern. Suddenly, there was a gentle knock on the door of the room. Chu Xingchen was afraid that he would be discovered. Something had to be done urgently, but it was necessary to act quickly. While the guy was rushing back and forth around the room, the door began to open. Mother Chen's smiling head poked her head through the door. She asked if everything was okay, because she was told that the gentleman expressed a desire to hire an ordinary, ugly cleaning lady. But in the room, Mother Chen was in for a great shock. She saw a rich gentleman stretched out and half naked. The old woman screamed that the cleaning lady had escaped and needed to be caught urgently. Chu Xingchen was glad that he had his own shadow, which was just right for such a situation. It was urgent to get rid of Mother Chen and the other persecutors. When the guards ran out into the hotel corridor, they immediately saw the shadow of Chu Xingchen. After that, shouting, "If you don't leave, we will catch you," they rushed to chase Chu Xingchen's shadow. Chu Xingchen was even partly glad that he had the opportunity to test the shadow so quickly in conditions close to combat. Saving my own ass was a big deal. Xingchen's mirror shadow bypassed his opponents with a few deft movements without even getting out of breath. The surprised and discouraged guards could only watch after her. Chu Xingchen's shadow was holding his original in his arms. Chu Xingchen himself shouted with unexpected joy that the restriction on the use of spiritual power did not apply to his shadow. It was quite nice to go through a mission with a mirror shadow doing all the dirty work for you. Chu Xingchen felt inspired and empowered by being carried in his arms. But the joy did not last long. Something suspicious began to happen around. For the first time in his life, Chu Xingchen saw such metamorphoses that began to occur around him. Soon, the corridor along which Chu Xingchen was carried by his mirror shadow lost its usual shape. Moreover, it even lost its solid structure and turned into something viscous. This viscous substance increased in size and surrounded Chu Xingchen and his mirror shadow on all sides. The guy was not ready for such a turn of events. There was no way to get out, and the viscous mass continued to expand and crush Chu Xingchen from all sides. Soon the guy was unable to make a single movement. Moreover, even simple breathing was difficult for him. Soon, the viscous thing swelled so much that only Chu's hand remained on the surface. The guy had absolutely no idea how to save himself. He didn't even manage to show his middle finger. Soon after absorbing Chu Xingchen and his shadow, the viscous mass began to slowly decrease. And soon, only two small bumps pointed to the place where Chu Xingchen and his shadow disappeared. Soon, even these bumps smoothed out, and only small ripples remained on the smooth fabric that covered the floor of the corridor. Two guards watched silently. The guards just laughed at the stupid cleaning lady. They knew that she had no chance of escaping punishment, much less hiding or escaping from the Jade Tower Tavern. And in front of the entrance to the elite tavern, there was again a crowd of people wanting to taste unusual pleasures. But in the motley crowd, several bright people stood out. These were girls from Wujin School and Shiyu Academy. Upon entering, they were immediately asked which floor they preferred. The girls answered without hesitation that they were used to the red floor. Immediately at the entrance, the girls were offered wine. Her Majesty was indignant. She said that she had never touched such poison. But the princess was told that it was tradition to drink wine. The brave and experienced Kong Feng demonstrated to the princess that this was not at all scary, but even a little pleasant. The girl added that the princess should try it, because it is not poison. The princess looked doubtfully at the swill offered to her. She wasn't eager to try it. The color was blood red, and the smell was unusual. Her Majesty asked what it was. She was told that this was a welcome drink. There is a special field in the Jade Tower that limits spiritual power, and this drink allows you to neutralize the effect of the field. The princess then said in amazement that Chu Xingchen and Shuzhua Wu would not be able to use their spiritual powers. Kong Feng confirmed that this was the case in the Jade Tower. The princess growled that this was a lousy place. You just need to defeat him and leave no stone unturned here. Kong Feng noticed that even the strongest would not be able to cope with the dark forces of this place. Kong Feng added that the owner of this place is a rather unpleasant person. Everyone who tried to interfere with business in the Jade Tower never left this place alive. Now, Kong Feng leaned very close to the princess's ear. She asked the princess if she knew what happened to them. Seeing the princess's questioning look, the girl said that they were swallowed up by the building. Chu Xingchen was also almost swallowed up by the Jade Tower building. The only thing that saved the guy at the moment was his shadow, which held a free piece of space. The system appeared and asked Chu Xingchen how he felt in such an unexpected place. The guy replied that it was difficult for him to move, and there was not enough oxygen to breathe. Chu Xingchen asked the system what kind of place this was. She replied that they were now inside the building that had swallowed them. Inside, this building is constantly absorbing spiritual power. The system also reported that the shadow would not be able to contain the walls of the building for too long. Therefore, it was urgent to come up with a way to escape from this treacherous place. Chu noticed that the building seemed to have a kind of consciousness. He also stated that he felt a very hot feeling in his stomach. Chu was afraid of being sick because he needed to look for a way out. Chu Xingchen's stomach hurt so much that he had to artificially induce vomiting to relieve his suffering. Chu put 2 fingers into his mouth and pressed the root of his tongue several times. Imagine Chu Xingchen's surprise when a small turquoise ring appeared from his mouth. At that moment, the guy immediately remembered everything. This happened at the entrance to the tavern. Upon entering, the incoming goods were searched, and Chu Xingchen quickly swallowed the ring so that it would not be taken away. But then things moved so fast that Chu Xingchen forgot about the ring. But the ring remained very hot and still burned Chu Xingchen's hand. The guy extended the ring to his mirror shadow so that it would support him while Chu Xingchen's hands rested. Suddenly, instead of a ring, the fox's grandmother's stone appeared in the hand of the mirror shadow, breaking the seals. Chu received this stone from the imperial treasury. Then the stone itself called him. Chu Xingchen thought that all this was very interesting but not timely. He urgently needed to come up with a way to get out of this trap, and he had to be distracted by the stones. But after some time, the incredible began to happen. The huge vibrating masses that surrounded Chu Xingchen and his mirror shadow on all sides began to move. Chu Xingchen watched the movement of these huge masses with amazement and fear. It seemed to Chu Xingchen that at first the building swallowed them, and now it was going to digest them. But gradually an empty space formed around Chu Xingchen and his mirror shadow. Now there was no pressure on the guy from all sides, and it became much easier to breathe. The system was also surprised by what was happening. She asked Chu Xingchen what he did to get them released, but Chu could not answer anything because he did nothing. Then, the system drew Chu Xingchen's attention to the seal-breaking stone. It was heating up. Chu Xingchen suggested that perhaps the stone could control this place, and it helped expand the space. Chu Xingchen also remembered that the old men told him that the 6 stones were connected to each other. Stones can sense each other if there is not a very large distance between them. Based on this, Chu Xingchen logically assumed that if this stone senses another stone, it means that it can be found somewhere nearby, probably in the Jade Tower itself. Another stone was indeed nearby. Although he was not exactly in the building, to put it bluntly, he was still located within the Jade Tower Tavern. In general, everything was not easy. The second stone was in the body of a person, and in the body of a living person. It was located approximately in the middle of the chest, and the body was connected to it through processes. The stone shone brightly. This man with a stone in his chest was well aware of the presence of Chu Xingchen in the Jade Tower. This man knew and understood a lot of things that others did not know and did not understand. Meanwhile, Chu Xingchen was moving around in the bowels of the building. With the stone in his hand, he felt much more confident. Now the walls did not attack him from all sides, wanting to digest him. At this time, the man with the stone in his chest smiled at the fact that only women could enter the Jade Tower building. But here, Chu Xingchen ended up, even though he was a guy. The smile disappeared from the face of the man with the stone. He plunged into distant memories. He had been here for a very long time, and remembered many strange and mysterious phenomena that happened here. Chu Xingchen, meanwhile, had already become quite comfortable in the bowels of the building. He moved freely where he needed to. He was followed by his faithful assistants, the system and the mirror shadow. Chu Xingchen began to methodically study the space in which he found himself. The guy was also interested in what effect the seal-breaking stone had on this living and obstinate building. Chu Xingchen began to feel the walls of space. They seemed alive to the touch, slightly elastic, and also had a persistent smell of mushrooms. The material looked like mushrooms to Chu Xingchen. It must be said that Chu was pretty hungry by then. So the guy decided to taste the living walls. This way he could not only explore the space, but also refresh himself. But Chu was pulled back by the system. She yelled that Chu Xingchen shouldn't taste any rubbish. Chu replied that he could smell the mushrooms from the wall, and it reminded him of the food he had as a child. The system was surprised by this turn of events. She asked Chu Xingchen to tell him more about this because she was not familiar with this part of Chu Xingchen's biography. Chu Xingchen told the system that when he was very small, he almost died of hunger. For many days, there was not a crumb of bread or a drop of milk in his mouth. He might not survive. The old people didn't need food and didn't cook anything. Therefore, when they found Chu Xingchen, they were faced with a task. They absolutely did not know what to feed the hungry child. They had no food for mere mortals. But the child could not feed solely on spiritual energy. The old people began to fear that Xingchen would not survive, and someone would have to bury him. But suddenly the old people heard shouts for them to disperse, otherwise someone might be doused with boiling water. The surprised old people quickly stepped aside to see what had happened. It turned out that one of them, apparently the smartest, prepared a real strong broth, which was quite suitable for feeding a small person. The old man asked where he managed to find meat for the broth. Grandfather boasted that he cut up a white doll and then chopped its flesh into a saucepan and cooked it for a couple of hours. While some old people were wondering whether the meat of a white doll was safe for a child, the red-haired old man began to feed the child. He figured that by the time the others finished arguing, the child would die. But they immediately heard advice that you shouldn't plunge the child's head into the pan. The old man was told that this is not how children are fed. After all, a child can either choke or get burned. Chu Xingchen told the system that the strong, nasty taste of this soup would stay with him for the rest of his life. Chu Xingchen added that such broth could hardly be called food, but it saved his life. Chu Xingchen felt like one sip of this soup made him want to vomit all the time. Soup made from white grandpa doll meat. It was just terrible. The system sympathized with Chu and his difficult childhood. Chu Xingchen continued to think out loud. He said that the texture, taste, and smell of this building flesh was very similar to the meat of a white doll. But her meat was white, and here the meat is brown. The white doll was a mixture of mushroom and meat. It did not have a fixed shape, it could absorb everything and grow. But in the mountains, the size of the white doll did not exceed half the height of a person. But this mushroom became very large and turned into a building. Xingchen was very interested in understanding this issue. He even forgot for a while that he was supposed to save the fox. Chu Xingchen suggested that this mushroom did not appear in this place by chance. There was some kind of terrible secret in all this, but so far the guy could not solve it. At this time, the system informed Chu Xingchen that the mirror shadow did not waste time on useless thoughts, and it managed to find a way out of this disastrous and strange place. Meanwhile, on the floors of the Jade Tower Tavern, the usual routine was going on. The tables were laden with all kinds of food and strong drinks. The girls were generously treated to all of this. Zhu Wu also had the honor of tasting various delicious dishes. Despite the fact that the guy was in the form of a girl, he ate and drank for 3. The mission is the mission, and lunch is on schedule. The fat old man constantly poured alcohol into Xu Zuowu's glass. He also said that he would punish him if he refused to drink. The other girls looked at this attention with envy. Finally, Xu Zuowu had already eaten and drunk to his fullest, and now he did not like the old man's increased attention to his person. But the fat man was persistent and continued to drink the guy in the guise of a girl. One of the local beauties turned to the old man and suggested that they get her drunk. She noticed that this redhead was already drunk until a pig squealed and didn't want anything else. The old man got angry and called the girl a fool. Then he started yelling that he was not interested in these old sluts who had been living here for many years. He wanted to have fun with the new girl. He grabbed Shizua Wu's face with his fingers and began to say what a wonderful face and what a bright, beautiful color the luxurious hair was. The old man added that it was all beautiful. Then he said that he really wanted to play with such a cutie. Shizua Wu screamed in fear. The fat man was even more delighted. He really liked it when girls were afraid of him. The old man muttered that this fear was charming, whereas other girls here are not afraid of anything. Moreover, if you happen to see them in the morning without makeup, you might get scared yourself. The fat man attacked Xu Zuowu and said that his voice was very seductive. Xu tried to fight back, but what could he do in this place without spiritual power? He felt scared. It is unknown how all this would have ended if the unexpected savior had not dealt the loving fat man a good blow to his stupid head. This was an unexpected rescue for Zuowu. In the room, Chu Xingchen appeared directly from the wall. He was still in the form of a girl, but was holding a massive club in his hands. Chu Xingchen shouted that he was personally protecting this guy. Xu Zuowu was very happy to see his friend appear. Moreover, Chu Xingchen came at such a necessary moment. Xingchen asked if Xu Zuowu was okay and if he had any problems. The guys exchanged a firm handshake and greeted each other with loud shouts. They were glad that in this dangerous place they were together again and could support each other. Xu Zuowu complained that he could not fight. He had no spiritual power. He also noted that it was good that they did not send girls to this terrible place, but ended up here themselves. Xu Zuowu secretly told Chu that very dirty and terrible things were happening here. Therefore, it is better not to waste time, look for the fox, and get out of this place as quickly as possible. Chu Xingqian was also quite tired of the perverted customs here, and he agreed that he needed to go look for the fox. And the guys immediately hurried to the exit, but one of the girls called out to them. The girl was amazed that Chu Xingqian had just crawled out of the wall of the building. She added that since he managed to get out of such an insidious trap, she wanted to ask Chu something. Chu Xingqian stopped to find out what this girl wanted. He was not used to refusing girls, unless, of course, they demanded too much from him, like some. And at this time, Shizuo Wu was already anticipating in his thoughts a meeting with a girl with blue hair. The guy really missed her in this place. But salvation was still far away. At this time, at the other end of the Jade Tower building in the dark basement, outreach work was carried out with children who dared to escape. A large guard stood over them, but the children mostly got it not from him, but from the evil old woman Mother Chen. She screamed that they were constantly running away from her, and it was terribly infuriating. She promised to get even with them. She squealed that every day they spend a lot of money to feed and water these children. In general, their maintenance is very expensive, and instead of gratitude, they try to escape. One girl asked Mother Chen to let her go. She said that she had just recently been kidnapped and brought here. At the same time, the girl has parents who need to be taken care of. Mother Chen angrily said that she was not doing charity work. She was running a brothel. Therefore, she should behave accordingly. She also wanted this from the fugitives. Mother Chen added that since the girl could not perform her duties, the guard would teach her a good lesson. And let others take a look so they don't mind. The girl screamed the words, "Help! Save!" But the guard just laughed and said that no one would help her here, and that he would give her a good spanking that she would remember for a long time. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Chu Xingqian's mirror shadow appeared and kicked the guard well with such force that he was thrown against the wall and punched a large hole in it. It was clear that the guard would remember this blow for the rest of his life. If only his memory is restored, and he will remember at least something. Shadow Chu was also not averse to exercising. Enraged, Mother Chen screamed at what kind of figure had appeared. She started screaming, "Who is this? And why did he appear here and spoil her people?" The old woman ordered to seize Xingqian's shadow. This was all Chu Xingqian's mirror shadow needed. With all these problems, she also missed a good fight. Just like Chu Xingqian himself, it's time to wave your fists. Mother Chen's people rushed towards the mirror shadow. She scattered them all with one left hand. Only the sounds of precise blows were heard. A shadow quickly moved across the room, and bodies fell. From amazement and hatred overwhelming her, Mother Chen was speechless for some time. She could only glare fiercely and furrow her plucked thin eyebrows terribly. Then she found her speech and began to cry out what was happening in the world. In her hotel, cultivators cannot use spiritual power and fight with her staff. Now everything has turned upside down. At this time, Xingqian appeared right from the floor and shouted at the old woman. Why was she yelling like that, preventing normal people from working? He also asked how she liked his shadow. The shadow knelt down to help Chu Xingqian get out of the floor. Nearby, the heads of the noble Shizuo Wu also appeared from the floor, as well as the girl who had asked something earlier. When this girl got out of the floor and shook herself off the dust, she immediately called out to one little girl. A child in red pajamas and red hair turned around at the scream. When she recognized her own sister in the girl who had emerged from the floor, she rushed towards her with a loud squeal and hung on her neck. Everyone watched this meeting of sisters with admiration. The girl explained to Chu Xingqian that she and her sister used to live in the Western Islands. But a year ago, she was kidnapped and sold to the Jade Tower Tavern to please the customers. The crying girl said that just 2 days ago, she found out that her sister was kidnapped and she was in this building. But the girl could neither escape herself nor help her sister. The girl knelt down in front of Chu Xingqian and babbled that he was her benefactor, and she would be grateful to him for the rest of her life. Xingqian tried to lift the girl from her knees and calm her down. The guy thought about the fact that both sisters were kidnapped very far away and in the same place. Apparently, human trafficking was very well established in this region. Mother Chen, who was being held by the mirror shadow, shouted that Chu Xingqian and his friends were already dead. She shouted that doesn't he know who the owner of this tavern is and who they went against. Xingqian said that he doesn't care who the owner of this almshouse is, and he doesn't care at all. He added that if it weren't for business, he would never have gone to such a disgusting place. Chu Xingchen informed Mother Chen that a fox had been kidnapped from him, and he had information that it was being held in the Jade Tower. He asked the old woman where he could find his fox. With the help of the shadow, Chu Xingchen could see through the walls, and thanks to this, he was able to find Shizuo Wu. But the guy didn't manage to even get on the fox's trail, and that worried him. Mother smiled sarcastically. She said that it turns out that they came for a magnificent fox. The old woman added that she had to disappoint them because they came too late. Chu Xingchen and Shizuo Wu looked at each other in surprise, and then looked at the old hag again. The guy's eyes showed excitement and concern for the fate of their little friend, and Mother Chen fully enjoyed the fear of the boys, which she herself had caused, and continued. The old woman said that the fox ended up in the tavern owner's private collection. The guys clearly imagined how the fox was sitting in beautiful clothes in a luxurious apartment. Then maybe they force her to dance wildly or sing funny songs. But the fox's eyes always remain sad. She misses her school, her friends, and all this luxury is alien, and maybe even disgusting to the fox. It was difficult to imagine this. The frightened Xingchen took the old hag by the breasts and began to yell at her to immediately lay out everything she knew about the owner's private collection. He also asked how to find the owner. Mother Chen said that Xingchen seems to be a fool, because he does not understand that the fox has now become the slave of the owner of the Jade Tower Tavern, and now no one can save her. The old woman began to yell that spiritual power could not be used in this building. She said, "Does Xingchen really hope to fight the owner alone and defeat him within his own walls?" Mother Chen got very excited and started yelling that this building was the embodiment of the tavern owner. Chu Xingchen got tired of listening to her screams, and he gave her a good punch in the teeth. Chu Xingchen said that whether the building is the incarnation of the owner or not, in any case, it will be very bad for both of them. He pulled noble Shizuo Wu behind him, but Shizuo Wu was in no hurry to leave. He looked back at the girls and said that they couldn't leave them like that. After all, soon the guards from the tavern will appear here, and Mother Chen will recover. At this time, on the first floor of the tavern, the most elite, a feast was in full swing. The tables on the red floor of the Jade Tower were laden with delicious treats, and sparkling wine was poured into glasses. But the princess didn't like all this very much. She was yelling at one girl who was trying to feed her. The princess screamed in disgust that the girl should not touch her, because she did not like women. The sweet girl sat on the same chair with Her Majesty and offered her food. The princess tore and tore. She did not tolerate such closeness and familiarity. She could barely contain herself. At this time, Kong Feng was happily chatting with another girl and drinking wine. She whispered to the princess that she was behaving unnaturally, and they might be suspected of something or even discovered. The princess thought Kong was having a good time, and the impudent girl shoved her face right into the princess's face. Her Majesty could hardly restrain herself from hitting the molester. At this time, somewhere in the depths of the huge body of the mushroom building, a line of people was moving. It seemed strange, but the mushroom did not cause any harm to people. This was the first time this happened here. This group of people was led by Xingchen, followed by his comrade and right-hand man Shizuo Wu. Thanks to Chu's possession of the stone, the mushroom obediently allowed them to go where they needed to go. The system asked Chu why they were bringing all these freed girls with them. Chu replied that they could not abandon them. The boys were going to take them to the princess, into her care. On the way, Chu Xingchen was thinking about how to find the owner of the Jade Tower Tavern. But that was only half the story. Then he had to be defeated, and the fox had to be freed. What Chu Xingchen didn't like the most was that it was impossible to use spiritual power in this place. This put him at an unequal position with the owner, who controlled everything here. Xingchen was just thinking about his mother's words that the building is the embodiment of the owner. Although it seemed meaningless at first, it seemed that this was the key to unraveling everything. Just at this moment, Chu Xingchen's mirror shadow stopped, and Chu almost ran into it. The shadow made room and pointed the guy somewhere ahead. Chu rushed forward impatiently. Ahead, Chu Xingchen saw some strange field with many runes glowing on it. The ghostly shadow was precisely pointing to these runes. Apparently, it was dangerous to go further. Soon, the mirror shadow was already standing at its full height, And not only Chu Xingchen, but also Shuzuo Wu and others were looking out from the hole. This place was special. It was felt immediately. Chu Xingchen felt unusual energy fluctuations in this place. The mirror shadow tried to explain something, but it was difficult to understand. Then Chu Xingchen decided that he would figure it out himself. The guy decided to take a closer look at the mysterious glowing runes. A thought appeared in Chu Xingchen's mind that perhaps because of these runes, spiritual power cannot be used in this place. Therefore, Chu Xingchen turned to his mirror shadow and asked it to try to destroy the glowing runes. At that time, this seemed like a completely reasonable decision to Chu Xingchen. Shadow didn't have to be asked twice. She hit the runes with all her might with her right hand. At first, it seemed to Chu that nothing had happened, and the blow was in vain. But then everything changed. But soon, the guys saw that everything was in motion. It looks like the blow hit the target. A vibration appeared under the guy's feet. The roof of the tunnel along which they were moving began to move in waves. Chu Xingchen and the noble Shuzuo Wu began to scream in fear. It seemed to them that soon everything here would collapse and bury them under thousands of tons of flesh of a giant mutant mushroom. While the guys were afraid of the collapse and were trying to figure out where to run, Chu Xingchen, out of the corner of his eye, saw someone behind him who very much resembled a fox. At the first second, he couldn't believe his eyes. But then Chu Xingchen thought and decided that even if there was even the slightest chance that it could be a fox, this opportunity should not be missed. Try and find her later in these wilds. Therefore, Chu Xingchen shouted the fox's name with all his might and ran in the direction where he thought he saw her. Chu Xingchen tried very hard not to fall behind completely. The guy continued to pursue the invisible fugitive, and at some point, he again managed to see a shoulder and hair that could belong to his fox. Chu continued the pursuit. Finally, around the next bend, Chu Xingchen was able to clearly see the fox. It was really her. Chu Xingchen loudly shouted the fox's name to attract its attention to him. In response, Xingchen heard his name. This means it was still his fox, and not a shadow, not a hallucination, not a mirage, and not a manifestation of a sick imagination. Chu was very lucky to find the fox. Lisa smiled at the guy. Then she called him by name again. After that, the fox continued to leave and called Chu Xingchen. She even shouted to him that she really needed his help. So, Chu Xingchen continued to run further and further into the body of the giant mushroom, prompted by the call of the fox. Trying to help Xiaoxi, the guy didn't even look around much. As a result of this chase, Chu Xingchen ended up in some strange, incomprehensible place. He didn't really remember how he got here, and now he didn't know how to get out of here. But Chu understood that it was dangerous here. While the guy was trying to navigate the area and take control of the situation, a hole appeared under his feet. Chu Xingchen could not resist and quickly flew down. Chu Xingchen tried to grab the walls of the hole as he fell, but he failed. The guy just tore his hands up and got a few bruises on the way down. The hole was deep, and the fall stopped unexpectedly for Chu Xingchen and was quite painful. The guy hit his head on the ground. The blow even stunned him for some time, and blood poured from his nose. Now, Xingchen found himself in an even stranger place. Thick living columns towered around, with red splashes visible on them, and terrible red eyes looked from above. Chu Xingchen tried to contact his mirror shadow. The system said that as long as it was in place, Chu Xingchen would always have a connection with his shadow. The guy understood that he couldn't get out of here quickly. Therefore, Chu Xingchen told the mirror shadow to take Shuzuo Wu and the others to the princess. In this situation, this was the best option. Her Majesty knows what to do. Having solved one problem, Chu Xingchen again became preoccupied with where he ended up. He was also annoyed that the fox eventually disappeared from sight. It turns out that the whole chase was in vain. Chu Xingchen even contacted the system, asking if it had seen a fox somewhere nearby. Although at this time the fox was very close, almost behind Chu Xingchen's back. Moreover, the fox sneaked up and tore Xingchen's back with its nails. The surprised guy did not understand what was happening. He did not notice the fox, and now he did not understand where the sharp pain came from. The wounds on Chu Xingchen's back were quite deep, and blood sprayed out in all directions. But now,